Tell me we're on. Tell me. Tell me we're on. Tell me we're doing it. Of course, there's that reverse effect thing happening. You know, oh dear. My gimbal keeps moving. And I think it's resting right there. So I have to move this way. It keeps moving. Can you see it's moving? Oh man, that's irritating. I'm trying to screw it all right. So just give me a second here. See, it's the reason being a one-man show is not a good thing. It's a bad thing. So here it is. I'm trying to find out how I can fix this thing here. Now just give me a second, y'all. If it could just sit right there and not move, I'd be good. Are we good? I think we are. It better not move an inch. Because the moment it does that, boy, it's going to mess me up. All right, let's get into it. Could somebody... All right, here it is. Here we are. I think we're good. Is the lighting okay? Tell me in the comments. Is the sound good? Tell me in the comments. Before I proceed... Guys, let's just check this out here for a moment. Let me just double check it on my monitor. Here it is. You can go ahead and, can you see my merch? What am I, merchant now? Is that what we're doing now? We're merchants now? Well, you got to roll with the punches. That's what you got to do. Right. Let me just double check here if my sound is good. All right. Gonna put my phone on here. Guys, do me a favor. Just sling this broadcast to people that you think would be interested in this conversation, and let's talk about it. Clear something or other. We're loud and clear. Are we? Tell me we are. We good? All right. I'm gonna sort of decrease the volume on this. Right. I'm going to have to take my cap off. I was speaking at an event a few days ago. The Salvation Army invited me to speak to a group of young women on the topic of technology and the use of social media. It was not a church gathering, guys. Many of you got your knickers in a twist because I showed up behind a podium wearing a cap. This is a cap. It is not a cape. No, there's no such. A cape is that red towel that Superman wears, or Batman. Batman has a black cape, spelled C-A-P-E. This, on the other hand, is a cap. Very different from a hat. If I had a hat here, I would demonstrate to you. Right. Oh, by the way, guys, I must tell you, my wife and I went to see Michael Jackson's biopic at the cinema at Ster-Kinekor. And let me just say very quickly, there was a lady there in the audience. Because, you know, going to a movie, going to the cinema, you know, when I was a kid, the elderly people used to call it the bioscope. Okay? Bioscope. They used to say bioscope. That word bioscope came from the word bioscope. You know, in Louisiana, they called it the moving picture theater. Okay. When I was a kid, you know, movies, of course, were not what they are now. When we used to go to Plaza 1, 2, and 3, 20th century cinema, movies never started on time. There was a guy in the projector room that would look down into the audience, and when he felt that there were enough people in the audience, then he would press the machine, the projector would roll, and the movie would begin. But in those days, what I loved about going to the cinema in those days was that, you know, before the movie started, there was always the national anthem that would play, and we would all stand to our feet and we would proudly sing the national anthem. We don't do that anymore. I mean, in the old days, you remember the old days, we used to do that. We took pride in singing our national anthem. Anyway, but you know, here are the rules, guys. When you go to a movie, you're going there as a collective. You're not going there as an individual. You are part of an audience. And because you're part of an audience, what then that means is that you have to be a good audience member. It's like being a good neighbor. You know, if you're living in a neighborhood and your front yard is filthy, but your neighbor does everything they can to keep their front yard clean, you're not being a good neighbor. It's the same with the movies. If you go to the movies, don't go with your toddlers. If you're watching a movie like Michael Jackson, you can take your toddlers if you're watching a cartoon or an animated movie, you know, because there are other children there. And guys, here's the other thing. Don't take your children to adult movies. You know, I mean, if the Shawshank Redemption is playing or Copenhagen is playing, don't take your toddlers to see that, because they're going to run amok, and it's no fault of their own. Do you know who I blame? I blame Stir Kennicor. Because as a fellow audience member, when you're sitting in the theater and you're sitting next to someone that's chatting away, or someone that has an unruly child or very active child, and then you turn to the person and say, "Excuse me, could you pipe it down? Could you tell your child to..." That's an argument. Stir Kennicor is creating a conducive atmosphere for audience members to fight in and amongst themselves. What should happen is that there should be a Stir Kennicor member of staff in the cinema. Anyone that makes noise, anyone that's disruptive, it is up to the member of staff to walk up to that person and say, "Excuse me, you're in a movie house. You are disturbing your fellow cinema goers." That's how it's supposed to be. I shouldn't have to engage with anyone, because people don't like to be confronted. People don't like confrontation. So shift that responsibility onto the people that run the cinema. In this case, Stir Kennicor. So we went and watched Michael, which I loved. I must tell you, I was crying through the first portion of the movie. You know, I was sitting there just bawling my eyes out. I was crying, you know. It was very nostalgic because, you know, it also reminded me of my parents. I mean, my parents introduced us to Michael Jackson's music, the Jackson 5. I remember in those days we used to drive, my parents and I would drive to Kitwe, these long distance trips, and my dad had a cassette tape of Off the Wall, Michael Jackson's first solo album. And he would play that thing over and over. We knew all the songs, all the words, all the lyrics, because as soon as, you know, it was one of those cassette tapes where you put in the thing in the car, and then it had two sides. When the one side was done, you ejected the cassette, pulled it out, flipped it over, and pushed it back in. And we would listen to that for hours, and I loved that. So it sort of reminded me of them, and it made me feel very nostalgic, and so I cried a bit in there. And my wife would turn to me and say, "You okay?" I said, "I'm fine, honey. I'm just being a little nostalgic." Right, can we get into it? Can we talk about it? First of all, I need to talk to you about these things here. These are caps. And what I've decided to do is that I've decided to send you, my supporters. And now, of course, if you do not support me, that this does not apply to you. Okay, let's be clear. This is only for people that believe in what I feel that I can do for the city, as a collective, as well as in terms of synergy, working in collaboration to make the city better. And I believe that I can offer that. in terms of leadership of the city, in terms of the position of mayor. So in an effort to do that, what I've done is that I have sat down with a company that prints T-shirts and hats, and I have collaborated with them, and I want you, in exchange for your support, and there are many of you. How do I know this? Because many of you have already started supporting us through the acquisition of these caps. Many of you, and I thank you for that. And of course, and I've asked those of you that have decided to buy these caps, I've asked you to please take photographs, share them with me so that I can share them with my audience. Not everybody has to do that. That is not a prerequisite. It is not imperative that you do that. But if you could do that, that would help our campaign. So the reason I'm doing it is because I'm trying to galvanize support. Now, the problem with some people is that they think, no, why are you charging 200 kwacha? Why can't you just give it to me free? No, this is a physical representation of your support. That's what it is. That's all it is. And we can do that. Now, somebody said in the comments, they said, but the regalia is supposed to be free. Well, somebody pays for it. There's no such thing as a free piece of regalia. There's not, and this is not regalia. This is a physical representation of your support. Do you understand that? It is a physical representation of your support in as far as my bid for mayor of the city of Lusaka is concerned. Do you understand that? Now, if for any reason you do not understand that, or you choose not to understand that, you're fine to do that. You're fine to do that. You're fine not to do that. You're fine not to support. You're fine not to get one of these for $200. So here's the deal. If you want one of these, we got 3 colors. We've got black. I like the black one, okay, because I'm black. There's a red one. There's a white one. They're $200 for your support. If you live within the city of Lusaka, my number's in the thingamabob. I'll add it in post. You can send me the number on Airtel Money and send me your location via WhatsApp, and I will ship these out to you immediately within Lusaka, and you should get them within. If you order them today, you get them today. If you order tomorrow, you get them tomorrow. Okay, that's the deal. Thank you so much. All righty. And oh, by the way, I also have now these I'm not doing an exchange for your financial support. These are given to just people that do support my bid for mayor, and we're gonna be handing these out to vote for Mwewa for LUSAKA Mayor 2026. Lovely. Thanks, guys. Remember to throw this in the bin. I've got a bin right here. All righty, let's get into it. What was I saying? So I've explained the first thing, which is the reason. And guys, you must understand when political candidates come to you and they ask you to support them because, running for office is not cheap, and it's certainly not free. It's not. There are so many logistical components that go with running for office. We as office seekers, we as public office seekers, we need all the help we can get. And guys, don't have it in your head that, because somebody said to me the other day, and I'll address this, I'll keep saying it. Somebody said to me the other day, but you've got Simonson. Honey, I get a salary just like you. Nobody here at Simonson Fokutells. Do you know what it means to Fokutel? Ukufokotola. In my language, we say ukufokotola. Ukufokotola means you come and you just see a basket of money and just go, fileteli tuarafi chita spend. To pay the pure. That. How do you think Simonson has survived for 38 years? It's because nobody here Fokutells. All of us get a salary. And if your salary runs out, you're going to have to wait for the next month. That's the name of the game. Okay? That's how this arrangement works. For all the nosy people in the world, for those that want to know how it works. Right. What was the other thing? I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll suss it out here in a moment. Just give me a second. It was what was it? Tell me in the comments what it was. What was it? Tell me what it was, y'all. Come on, break it down for me now. Here it is. So it was a campaign. Oh, Binwe Mpundu. Binwe Mpundu says that. Oh, by the way, guys, did you know there's something I've always wanted to share with you, and it's this. You know, a lot of guys moving forward, no pun intended. If you're part of the electoral process, if you're going to vote, which I encourage you to do, because I often tell people there is no other country on this planet that you can vote in. If you're a Zambian, if you are a full Zambian citizen and you do not have dual nationality and you're only a Zambian like me, there is no other place on this planet that I can vote in apart from here in Zambia. So you should take advantage of that. Yours is a very important voice in the grand scheme of things. So I would encourage you to be part of the process. I know that Electoral Commission of Zambia has registered a little over 8 million people. For a country of more than 19 million, that's not so bad, but we need to do better. That's not so bad, but we need to do more. You can't have half the population deciding the fate of 20 some odd million people. We need to do better. You know, as Oprah says, when you know better, you do better. All right. So Binwe Mpundu says that if Brian Mundubile does not appear on the ballot, there will be no elections. That's a bit disingenuous to say because that's a grand claim. That's a very huge, embellish-like statement. For you to pin the functionality of the 2026 elections on Brian Mundubile, for you to say that the elections hinge, are dependent on his appearance on the ballot box or on the ballot paper, for you to say that is not only disingenuous, it is practically foolish. You know why? Because Brian Mundubile is simply a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. He's not the puzzle. Ooh, deep. Did that come out of my mouth? You know, sometimes I wonder where these phrases come from. They just come from above. I mean, you know, Michael Jackson used to say, they just come from above. Let me say it again because I think that's important. For you, whoever you are, to think that your appearance or the lack thereof, in as far as the ballot paper is concerned, the election hinges on your appearance, it's disingenuous. You're not the only candidate out there. There's so many candidates. I mean, how many people have paid the 100,000 kwacha? So many of you. You can't even count them on one hand. There are a multiplicity of multitudinous tens of Zambians that have paid that 100,000. Of course, we know not every single one of them is going to succeed. Some of these jokers we've never even heard of. But that's not the point. My point is, the elections will take place with or without Brian Mundubile. The moment politicians begin to think that they are the be-all and end-all, the moment they begin to say to themselves, they're the bee's knees, the moment they have this self-aggrandizing, self-augmenting ego about themselves, where they think, well, if I'm not there, then by God, it's not going to happen. Why you ought to knock your one. The moment you talk like that, you've just exhibited your insignificance. You pale into utter insignificance in comparison to the grand scheme of things. You need to know that. And the quicker you know that, the better off you are, honestly. And I mean that, and I say that with love. I do. I say it from a place of love. Okay, there is no malice, there's no rancor, there is not a hint of resentment in me when I say that. Just know that. Okay, what I'm trying to express to you is that you're not all that. Okay. You're somebody, but you're not everybody. Ooh, deep. See that? See how I did that right there? You're somebody, but you ain't everybody. Oh, goodness. Listen, man, I ought to patent this stuff down, boy. I had to go to Packer over there and have it written down that I said it. That way, when somebody else tries to say it, I can say, you need to give me some money, boy. I'm being silly. All right. So, I mean, Brian's got a lot on his plate. He does. You know, he's got that revelation by Chishimba Kambwili to deal with. That's a huge revelation. The revelation is that he was paid to do these huge road contracts, which he never did. Those are big, big revelations. And if ACC take him to task on those alone, I mean, he's going to be in court for at least 2 years for that. So for you to simply narrow it down to political persecution, I think is being disingenuous. It's being irresponsible. Nay, it's being foolhardy is what it is. Okay? All right. What's the last thing? Kasonde. You know, it's this guy, Kasonde. He's a political provocateur. Guys, here's the thing. When it comes to the presidency, don't falsify anything to do with the presidency. The presidency is off limits. Be very careful, because when you mislead the nation about the presidency, you're treading on dangerous ground. And that applies to all of us. You know, I'll never forget, and I've shared this story with you. I've told you many, many times. There was one time two bus drivers walked up to me and said that there were people that were being sponsored to do some harm by throwing stones. And I shared that. And I was visited. People came to see me. They said, hey, listen, we saw your post. And this was a couple of years ago. They said, we saw your post. What's the deal? We need to know everything we can about what you're talking about. So when it comes to the head of state, be very careful what you say, because, you know, it has the potential of derailing the trajectory of the country. Don't speak irresponsibly about the head of state. Be careful with that. And that applies to all of us. Okay? So it's not strange that Musonda, what's his name? Kasonde. It's not strange that Kasonde has been sort of quarantined because of what he said, because that is a deliberate attempt at misleading the public in as far as the head of state is concerned. A deliberate attempt. Now, if there are issues there, those will be handled. But to sort of fabricate from a political lens and from a political opposition vantage point, guys, here's the thing. Zambian opposition politicians, don't think that you can say and do anything in the name of being an opposition leader and think that you'll get away with it. Don't do that. Many, many have gone down that way. Mightier men have fallen. Mightier men have fallen. All right. I gotta go. What is it? It's after lunch. Thanks for watching.